Lessons of history. Before we get into the story, everybody's wondering why did Trump call off the strike? With all the build up, all the hype, he called off the strike. Well, let's start with the Truth Social post that Trump put up amid the last hours before the supposed strike. Well, it turns out the supposed protesters that was due to be put to death by hanging was postponed or halted because, in actuality, they were Mossad agents. Now, when you link the two together, the post and the halt, it was a masterstroke on this chessboard. 10 moves ahead. Some only do 5D chess. We know Trump is famous for playing. Well, Iran was playing too. So now, the entire reason that they were so concerned about the hanging, because as I had an idea that's the only reason, because if the protesters was setting fire, burning mosques and stuff like that, they couldn't have been homegrown. They couldn't have been, people of that country or that faith, but it was being done. So I just wanted to get that part out. So remember now, imagine Israeli citizens getting put to death in Iran. The people in Israel not gonna like that too much. And things are already shaky over there with Netanyahu, so they paused. And hence, no attack. But that's just something for to wet your beak. Stay tuned for the rest of the story as we get into deterrence technology and the lessons of history. Hello and welcome. Today, we are taking a deep dive into the rapidly shifting geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. As we move through 2026, the rhetoric surrounding Iran, the United States, and Israel has reached a fever pitch. But beneath the headlines of potential conflicts lies a complex web of historical trauma, high-tech electronic warfare, and a strategic doctrine of deterrence that is reshaping global power dynamics. To understand where we are going, we must first look back at the cautionary tale that continues to haunt the region. Recently, a letter purportedly written by Aisha Gaddafi, daughter of the late Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, has been circling through international channels. It is a stark warning to the Iranian people. Do not trust the Western promises of normalization. The letter highlights the Gaddafi effect, the historical reality that when Libya abandoned its nuclear and missile programs in the 2000s in exchange for global acceptance, it didn't lead to peace. Instead, it led to the NATO-backed collapse of the state in 2011. This narrative has become a cornerstone of Iranian strategic thinking. The lesson for Tehran is clear. Disarmament without guaranteed deterrent is an invitation for intervention. This historical backdrop explains why Iran's missile arsenal and its pursuit of nuclear capabilities are not just military goals, but survival strategies. For years, the U.S. and Israel have worked to prevent Iran's nuclearization, seeing it as the primary obstacle to regional dominance. However, recent movements on the ground suggest a shift in tactics. We have observed a series of diplomatic evacuations from Tehran. Countries like Poland, Sweden, France, and India have pulled staff, a move often seen as a precursor for military action. Simultaneously, U.S. forces have been repositioning rather than a retreat. We are seeing an encirclement strategy. Forces are moving from central Iraq to borders of Syria and near the Pakistani frontier. This divide and conquer approach aims to open multiple fronts, potentially forcing Iran into a multi-directional conflict that tests its internal stability and its proxy networks. Yet, despite the aggressive postures, a full-scale invasion remains a distant prospect for the United States. Why? Because Iran's strategy has, in many ways, outsmarted traditional military calculations. The U.S. is operating on rational calculation model. They know that a direct strike on Iran would not be a localized event. It would likely lead to immediate closure of the Straits of Hormuz, a move that would send global oil prices into a tailspin and disrupt the world economy. Furthermore, the U.S. is facing a China dilemma. Washington's long-term priority is the containment of Chinese influence in the Pacific. Getting bogged down into another decades-long Middle Eastern war would drain the resources and political will needed for that larger theater. Consequently, we see a shift towards the Venezuela model, a form of hybrid warfare that combines deep strikes bombardment of infrastructure with political destabilization and economic sanctions rather than boots on the ground. While the threat of traditional kinetic warfare looms, the real battle is increasingly being fought in the invisible realms of the electromagnetic spectrum. Iran has significantly upgraded its electronic warfare capabilities, largely through domestic innovations and acquisition of Russian technology. Systems like the Russian-derived Tobo and the Tirada 2S are reportedly being used to jam satellite communications, including systems like Starlink. By using spoofing and barrage techniques, Iran is creating zones of silence around the most sensitive nuclear and military sites. On the domestic front, tools like the Al-Safant and the SR-99 are designed to blind drones and scramble GPS signals. During recent periods of high tension, these systems have allegedly caused operational vacuums for Western reconnaissance, making it nearly impossible to gain the precise intelligence required for a clean surgical strike. The technological edge serves as a gray zone deterrent. It allows Iran to defend its sovereignty without firing a single missile.
Troubled over Iran's satellite launch.
We consider that to be continued ballistic missile development. We consider this to be a provocative action.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the U.S. is deeply troubled over Iran's satellite launch. In a tweet, Pompeo alleged that the Iran secret space program advances technologies used in nuclear weapons delivery systems. The state secretary said Iran continues to lie that its space program is peaceful, civilian, and transparent.
You know what's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard on YouTube and in Western media? That Iran is years away from having intercontinental ballistic missile capability. And that before Iran can build such a missile, the United States should bomb Iran into oblivion. This is the life mission of Benjamin Netanyahu. They've been saying this for almost 2 decades now. Iran can't reach the US, they keep repeating. They don't have the technology, but we must act now before it's too late. But here's what they won't tell you. Iran has been able to hit any city in America since 2009. Not tomorrow, not in 5 years, 17 years ago. And the proof? It's been orbiting above your head this entire time. In 2009, Iran launched the Omid satellite into space, 450 kilometers above Earth. That satellite is still up there, traveling millions of kilometers, completing thousands of orbits. And here's the part that makes Pentagon generals sweat at night. The same rocket that put that satellite in orbit can deliver a warhead to Washington, New York, or Los Angeles in under 30 minutes. But Iran hasn't fired a single one at America. Why? Because unlike the United States, which bombs countries on the other side of the planet just to spread democracy, Iran actually has moral principles. Iran doesn't threaten nations with nuclear annihilation, doesn't invade countries for oil, doesn't claim to be the world police while committing war crimes every decade. And that terrifies Israel and America more than any missile ever could. Because if Iran, a country under 5,000 sanctions, more than any nation in history, can master intercontinental ballistic missile technology using solid fuel, something even Russia and China struggled with for decades, then what does that say about Western technological superiority? What does it say when Iran builds missiles that cost a fraction of American systems but can penetrate every defense the West has? And what does it say when Iran chooses not to use this capability, while America drops bombs on 7 different countries simultaneously? That's what we're going to expose in this video. We're going to reveal the hidden truth about Iran's space program, how it's actually the most advanced covert ICBM program on Earth, and how Iran has quietly assembled the most lethal tactical missile arsenal in the world, weapons so advanced that even America doesn't have equivalents. And at the end, we'll answer the question that keeps Israeli and American officials up at night.
Escalation and de-escalation. On one hand, you have the historical warning of the Gaddafi era urging Iran to remain armed. On the other hand, you have the U.S. and its allies attempting to maintain a credible military threat while avoiding a global economic catastrophe. We are seeing a shift in the Arab diplomacy as well as many neighboring nations. Once staunchly opposed to Tehran are pursuing de-escalation out of self-interest. They realize that in a total war scenario, their own infrastructure would be first to suffer. However, we must also acknowledge Iran's internal vulnerabilities. While its military technology is impressive, its economy remains fragile. The leadership in Tehran is essentially buying time, using its deterrent to stave off external threats, while struggling to manage internal public discontent and biting effects of sanctions. As we look forward, the remainder of 2026, the maximum pressure campaign of the past has evolved into a high-stakes game of psychological and electronic warfare. The U.S. may be bluffing with its bomber deployments, and Iran may be projecting more strength than it truly possesses. But the risk of miscalculation remains high. The overarching theme of this period is resilience. Iran has watched the fate of Iraq, Libya, and Ukraine and has concluded that in the modern world, sovereignty is only as strong as your ability to make an attack too costly for the aggressor. Whether through the Gaddafi effect warnings or the jamming of high-tech satellites, the message from Tehran is consistent. They will not be easily neutralized. For the international community, the challenge is to find a diplomatic off-ramp before the rational calculations of today give way to the unpredictable chaos of tomorrow.
Iran is escalating its crackdown against protesters and rioters as it blames Israel and the U.S. for the recent violent unrest in the country. Iran's intelligence ministry claims it has dismantled what it calls an Israeli-backed espionage network linked to the Baha'i community. Iranian intelligence accused its members of playing an active role in recent riots and acts of vandalism. According to Iranian authorities, a 32-member network was identified, with 12 key suspects arrested and 13 others summoned for questioning. Officials say the group operated across multiple provinces, including Tehran, Khorasan Rezavi, Kerman, Yazd, Sistan and Baluchistan, Alborz, Kermanshah, and Mazandaran. Investigators allege the network's central command operated from a safe house in Mashhad, functioning in what they describe as a highly organized structure. Iranian intelligence claims the group was specifically focused on attacking religious sites, including acts of vandalism during recent unrest. Authorities further allege that one of those arrested made multiple trips to Israel, reinforcing their claim of foreign coordination. Iran says investigations are still ongoing, warning that more affiliated members may be arrested. So far, officials claim 45 Baha'i individuals have been detained on charges of acting against Iran's national security. On Saturday, Iran's Tasnim news agency reported that authorities had arrested members of the Baha'i minority for alleged involvement in what the government calls riots following the nationwide protest wave.
In conclusion, the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East is no longer just about oil. The troop movements and the diplomatic cables, but we must also watch the signals in the sky and the lessons of history. The chessboard is set and the players are more entrenched than ever. Please, if you like this transmission, like, subscribe.